Welcome to Unleashing Happiness with Cecilia Hendricks, the podcast where I teach you how to change your mindset, change your habits, and change your life. Welcome back and happy Monday. We're on bonus episode 3. This is one where I feel like we're going to start really digging into what truly changed things for me when I was able to have that light bulb moment of like, wow, okay, this is what it means to change your mindset. This is what it means to figure out something new, to change your identity, to change your state. These things that I heard the gurus of today, spiritual leaders of yesterday, all continuing to say was, you can't get something new in life if you're continuing to be the same person that you were yesterday, that you need to learn how to focus your thoughts and the things that you're doing and truly become like a new person in order to get this new life and be more fulfilled and happier. And I was really confused by this because I felt like I kept doing that. I was trying to focus and then I would be frustrated because it wasn't happening the way that I thought that it should. And I don't know, something wasn't clicking for me. And I was getting annoyed. And of course, because I was getting annoyed, that's where my focus was, right? It was on this annoyance instead. And I realize that now in hindsight, but the things that we're going to talk about today, I feel like are the cornerstone, the foundation of what truly started to change for me, what made me realize, kind of what needed to change, how to change my identity, how to shift my state, how to get the things that I wanted in life. I read Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And that one was truly eye-opening for me, mainly because, he talks about how you can't wake up and start your day the same way as you did yesterday, but expect something different to start happening for you. If you continue to have the same thoughts about the way life goes, the person that you are, the way people treat you, the love you have in your life, etc., the list goes on, nothing's going to change for you because you have to start with yourself first. And it all comes down to your perception. It all comes down to what you're open to and what you're recognizing. If we're walking down the street and I am just down on life and dislike everything, and I'm looking down at the rocks as I kick them, and I'm just like, oh, my life is terrible and nothing ever goes my way, I'm going to miss the big sign that's like glittery, raising, 10 feet in the air that says, take a left turn, not a right, and you'll be rewarded. Well, instead, I'm looking down at my shoes, so I keep going the same way I always go, and I turn right, and I continue to get the same things that I've always gotten. I had another episode that talked about, folks that had self-identified as lucky versus unlucky, in the way that this played out in a study showing that the folks who said they were unlucky didn't see the same things that the lucky people did. So hopefully you can go back and listen to that episode if you'd like to. It was really interesting what this study determined. And I've seen this not only in my own life, but also in others. When I am feeling down and I'm frustrated, I'm annoyed, it seems like then everything starts to happen, right? They say that S rolls downhill. I'm not going to say the word because I do try to keep this podcast clean, but they say, S rolls downhill, and it's true. And I think part of that is because it builds momentum. And as your mood gets worse and you're focusing more on things that aren't going well, that's just kind of where you go. And I'm human. I definitely have days that I have to be like, man, this is not going well for me. And I really need an attitude adjustment. And being able to set yourself up to have the habit of catching yourself and doing those attitude adjustments can really make a huge difference in your life overall. And changing my habits was the number one thing that I feel like opened up the doors to everything else for me. When I really took a look at my life, I realized, well, of course, I want these things to change, but I'm not actually changing myself. I'm not changing the way that I view them. I'm not changing my thought process around them. I'm not even changing my thought process about myself and starting to recognize the things that are good in my life. There was actually a marriage book by Dr. John Gottman that I read. I'll link it below. I can't quite remember the name of it right now, but I'll link it below. And he also talks about how in a marriage, they have seen that couples will get stuck in a loop of noticing the negative. So they're unable to even recognize the positive things that their spouse does for them because they're so focused on the negative that essentially anything that their spouse does is wrong. Anything that they do, they're seeing kind of the negative side of it. And then they had an example of that goes the other way for positive too. When your cup is filled, you're emotionally secure and being, having your emotional needs met by your partner or your spouse. Then if something happens and maybe they get a little snippy with you, you may not register it the same way. Whereas if things are tense and you're frustrated, they get a little snippy with you, you're going to be annoyed and you're going to be quicker to be frustrated. So all of this comes back to starting to retrain your mind to recognize more of the positive things that are happening for you. And that's another reason why I always recommend doing the list of joys and making sure that you're adding joys to your day every single day. And it can be something super small, petting your dog, going for a walk, eating a really good peach, like whatever it is. Those are things that you can take your mindset and focus on the enjoyment of it and remind yourself that you're doing this for you because you love you and you want to enjoy life. And it can be something really, really small. Actually, this morning I had this thought while I was brushing my teeth that I was like, I really enjoy to brush my teeth. It feels nice. And it does feel nice. And it was something that we do every day, hopefully multiple times a day. And I never really consider it. I never really think about how this is something nice that I do for myself. And so if you're struggling, maybe your one joy that you add today is getting up out of bed and brushing your teeth. And just being thankful that your mouth feels clean, your breath smells nice, and you did something for you. That's definitely to highlight that your joys that you add to your day can be as big or as small as you want or need them to. And sometimes getting started requires starting very, very small. And that just gives you kind of the boost to get going and to start recognizing different things. The more that you do this and the more that you start to create this new kind of connection within your mind, within your brain, the more that you're likely to start going back to that. And this comes all the way back to what our topic is for today, which is habit loops. So I have read 2 great books now on habits and continue to add more to my want to read list because there are so many wonderful authors out there who have so much information on, creating and sustaining really good habits in your life. One of those is Atomic Habits. Absolutely love that book. We'll talk a little bit about what he mentions in there in this episode of Becoming 1% Better, which goes back to even like the brushing of the teeth, kind of adding that as a joy. But we'll touch on that a little bit. Definitely we'll have more of that content over the next few weeks as we go through these bonus episodes, because it's a really core piece of changing your identity and the state and your habits that you have and really breaking this habit of being yourself and starting to shift your mindset by shifting your habits, which then will change your life. The other book that I really recommend is The Power of Habit. My daughter actually is the first one who read that book. It was recommended to her by Shelby Sacco, I think is how you say her last name. She's got a podcast and some TikTok content called Sad to Savage. I find her content fantastic if you want to check her out as well. But she recommended the book, The Power of Habit. And I found that book also to be very enlightening. So I had already started after reading the book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. I had already started to look at law of attraction, manifestation, mindset changes in a much more practical way. If I need to change who I am in order to step into a new identity, and there was areas of life that I was struggling to do that, what was the way that I could make that easier on myself? And it was truly going and taking a look at the way that I was behaving each day and starting to interrupt that. This was before I had read Atomic Habits or Power of Habit. So it was nice to kind of see these books gave a little bit more concrete scientific proof that I was on the right track, but it also opened my eyes to some additional things that I hadn't realized that I was doing that actually had a name. And I feel like having that education now, I'm able to provide more insight out to you, my listeners, that should help you do the same thing that I did, hopefully just in a shorter amount of time, because it's taken me a couple years to get here. So what we'll talk about today is our habit loop, and different writers put the habit loop in different ways. I like the one from The Power of Habit, which says that you start with a cue. There's something that alerts you that, hey, we're going to start doing a routine. So the second part is your routine. And then the third part is your reward. And because you get this reward, you solidify in your brain like, we should do that again. We like that. So then once again, when that cue hits, you'll fall into your routine, you'll get a reward. And in time, that habit will actually start to become part of your unconscious way of being, right? If you think about when you woke up this morning, what was the first thing that you did? And if you think about it, what was the first thing that you did yesterday and the day before and the day before that? And it's the same in many different ways. When you get to work, you probably have a habit that you fall into. Maybe you sit down, turn on your computer, check if you have any messages, get up and go get coffee, say hi to Bob down the row. Like, who knows, right? But you probably have this habit that you fall into. And that is where you want to start identifying is, okay, if there's areas of your life that are not going the way that you want them to, what are some routines that are not aligned to your ideal self? So if you've been listening each week, last week we talked about how you start to take a look at, okay, what are the behaviors of who I want to be? Am I embodying those and really leaning into that? And the week before that was identifying what we actually want, right? So we know what we want. We know what behaviors we have that are not actually aligned with those and how that ideal self would behave. And so now it's time to start taking a look at our habits. One that I use as an example all the time is in the morning. If you're looking to be more successful, be more fit, be a healthier version of yourself, love yourself more, whatever it is, how is your morning starting? Let's take for an example that you want to love yourself more, speak to yourself more kindly, start to see yourself as this amazing, wonderful being that you actually are. Well, if you roll out of bed and you grab your phone and the first thing that you do is scroll Instagram for 30 minutes, thinking about how your life sucks and it's not like these people that you see on Instagram, then you get out of bed, you go look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, oh, yeah, I don't like the way that I look. And, my hair is all messed up and I don't like this, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not actually aligned to the person that you want to be. So start to consider, okay, if I was living my ideal life, I absolutely loved myself. I thought I was fantastic and beautiful. And I just think that I'm the bee's knees. What would you do when you got up in the morning? And start to take a look at your current routines and interrupt those. I like to create a physical interruption for myself. So if it's an issue of not wanting to grab my phone first thing in the morning, I will either move my phone to a whole new area of the house so that it's not right next to my bed while I'm sleeping, which regardless of what you're looking for is probably a good idea. I'm just going to throw that one out there. Or I can put a sticky note right on the front of my phone. And that sticky note may remind me of like a quote or have a little thing, to me saying, hey, you don't want to do this anymore. We're changing today. Because if you are not enjoying part of your life, if you're not getting the fulfillment that you want, you have to change something. You can't continue to wake up every day and spend your day doing the exact same thing that you've always done and expect a change. And even if you're somebody who's like a follower of Neville Goddard, this actually comes up a lot in the communities that I've been in and gotten questions about like Neville Goddard and his teachings, is people say, well, Neville says you don't have to do anything. And you are correct. You don't have to do anything forced, right? You'll be compelled to take specific action. Your wanted actions, the one that you feel compelled to do, are going to be very much aligned with whatever state you're in. And so we'll get into that in a little bit more detail as we move ahead. But for today, I want you to keep in mind that your habits start with a cue, you fall into your routine, and then you get your reward. A lot of the focus of today is going to be on the routine part, but I want you to also be aware of cues. So cues can be anything, right? It can be a time of day. It could be running into a specific person. It could be going to a certain location. Getting a notification on your phone is actually also a cue. So you recognize that you got the notification and then you fall into whatever routine it is of checking your phone. But for today, what we're going to look at is the actual routines. Be honest with yourself and start looking at one routine that you have in the day that is not aligned with the person that you want to be. It's not aligned with what you've decided that you want or the way that you want to behave. One of mine, for an example, is being like a business owner. So a routine that I would not want to continue would be one where I procrastinate getting things done because I have an audience that I've told I'm going to publish on these days, and I want to make sure that I get that done. And I admittedly definitely have struggled in the past with not doing the things that I told myself I was going to do. And so that is a routine and a habit that I'm really working on, that if I say I'm going to do something, well, I'm going to get that done. It's going to be done. I'm going to hit my goals. I'm going to set up a process for it. And I think part of why I struggled with that is because I was always so focused on the goal. I was always looking at this end result and wanting the goal. So if something happened and I faltered or I wasn't able to go from 0 to 100 overnight, I would get frustrated. And so then I wouldn't go and I wouldn't do anything and I would be overwhelmed. Or I also fell into the trap of I'll wait till Monday. Like, oh, you know what? I woke up this morning and I didn't do the routine that I wanted to. So now I'll just wait till Monday and then I'll start again. Well, every day can be a Monday. You don't have to wait and you shouldn't wait. You don't have to wait for the first time that you wake up. You don't have to wait until, you start a new week. You don't have to wait until the first of the month or to the new year. You are able to make these changes at any point of day, time, month, or the year. And I do not recommend waiting because the more you put it off, the more you're kind of teaching yourself that your identity is somebody who doesn't show up for themselves, doesn't do the things that they say they're going to. And then it just kind of becomes another habit, right? Like all of our life is set up in these habits. So start to identify a routine that is not aligned with the person that you want to be. I usually recommend to people that you either start with a morning routine or a nighttime routine. I think those are two areas that are very simple to get something changed in, and you're able to kind of put some focus into that. And they're ones that I think really set up your day, right? A good nighttime routine, make sure that in the morning you are ready to go and you're going to be the most successful version of yourself because there's things ready for you. And a good morning routine gets your day off on the right foot and allows you to kind of remain focused on what matters and the things that you want to be focused on. So those are the two that I would recommend, but you can definitely use any that you prefer. So from there, we're going to actually take a bit from the Atomic Habits book, James Clear. And when you take a look at this routine that you want to change, I want you to choose one small item out of that. So let's say you've decided to do your evening routine. You would pick one part of that you would change. So maybe for you, it would be washing your face before bed. Maybe it would be that you're going to put your phone away an hour before you want to be asleep so that you don't have your phone and it's out of the way. Maybe yours would be that you're going to prepare a breakfast for yourself in the morning or pack a lunch for your kids so that they're ready to go. Whatever it is, but just pick one thing. The focus that we're going to have as we're moving through this whole process is truly getting this 1% better every day. We're going to celebrate our small wins and start to really focus on those. And I can imagine if you're like me, I actually resisted this at first. I was like, no, I want to change so much, so fast, and I don't have to wait. And you know what? You're not wrong. There's tons of people who change quite a bit very quickly. What I have found though, is that if you're stuck in a cycle, it's not working for you, you're getting frustrated, and you continue to have kind of the same life over and over, well, then I recommend that you at least give this a try. Say, you know what, I'll go ahead and try this method for 30 days and see what happens. It's 1 month. If you've been going through this cycle like I did, I wasted quite a few years going through the cycle. So giving 1 month is nothing. So identify what this routine is that you want to change. Pick one small item out of that, and then set up what's going to be kind of your cue that something is changing. So if it's a nighttime routine, you can, set up maybe a reminder in your phone where an alarm goes off. If it's an evening or a morning routine, you can put the sticky note on your phone, charge your phone somewhere different, put a glass of water on your nightstand, but really start to identify, how can I shake up my routine? How can I kind of kick myself out of this unconscious habit loop that I fall into, that I'm continuing to do, that is not aligned with the person that I want to be. And those are kind of the things for you to work on for this week. Once you get one small thing down, then, add something else. I would do it within the same routine, like a morning or an evening routine. So let's say that yours for an evening routine was going to be that every night you're going to wash your face. Then maybe after 3 to 4 days, you feel like, I got this kind of down. I feel like I'm a bit better in this. So now I'm also going to add that my phone gets put away an hour before bed. So then you combine those two things, and now you're starting to build a true evening routine for yourself, adding meditation, light yoga, some stretching before bed. All of those are wonderful ways to set up your next day, writing in a gratitude journal. And I'll get into this in some other weeks, but it's just ideas for you to at least get kickstarted. So for this week, you're going to focus on your routines. And remember that a habit loop starts with a cue, which can be a person, place, time, emotion, whatever. And then it goes into your routine. And this week, we're going to really focus on those routines. And the more that you start to pay attention to them, the more your routines will really start to jump out in your face. And you can't change something that you're not aware of. So becoming aware of it is definitely the first step. Like, here's the change that I want to make. Here's the person that I want to be. And holy cow, now I can start to see all these routines that I'm doing every single day, day after day, that are keeping me stuck in the same cycle. Keep in mind the cue, because we're going to have to work on that one a little bit more over the next few weeks. But just pick one small piece of your routine that you're able to make a change for yourself and do something different than what you're doing now. So definitely interrupt that routine. So good luck this week. I definitely look forward to hearing from you on how this is going. You can email me at unleashinghappiness@ceciliahendricks.com. I love to hear from everybody. So definitely reach out. Let me know how it's going for you, or if you have any questions. Thank you so much for joining today. If you found the episode useful, please share it with your network or leave me a rating or review. It helps me get my message to more people, and I would greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to learn more about me, you can visit my website at ceciliahendricks.com.